Good afternoon, folks. We're about to start the December 17th, 2019 iteration of the BMZA. A few ground rules and fewer people to talk to about them today. We ask you to please turn off your cell phones, keep the talking to a minimum. Of course, the proceedings are being recorded by audio and by video as well. If you need to have a discussion, please step out into the hallway to do so. The board will vote on each case and make a decision at the end of the docket. You can feel free to stay to hear those deliberations for your matter at the end of the proceedings today. Otherwise, you can call the BMZA office tomorrow morning after 9 a.m. The number is 410-396-4301. Again, 410-396-4301. You likely will receive your resolution in the mail within 30 days, but do not do any work until your resolution is received, and by all means, do not do any work in Baltimore City without pulling the proper permits. Had a couple of postponements, which have already been taken care of because they were more than 48 hours, so I don't need to announce those. We have some matters here that on the docket today that have some opposition. What I would like to present you an opportunity, if you have not spoken, if you're the opposition, you haven't spoken with the applicant or vice versa, if you'd like an opportunity to do that, we will give you that now. We find that affording the opportunity to speak may help the parties bridge the gap, but you don't know if you don't speak. So with that, the matters for which opposition is signed in, I'll ask you to identify yourselves and let us know if you'd like an opportunity to speak to the other side.
So we have opposition signed in 2019-185 for 3536 Ellerslie Avenue.
I think a lot of them are out in the lobby now.
I guess they're already
Okay, great.
speaking. Mr. Kudinski?
I'll go out and chit-chat.
And then we have 403. Folks have signed in opposition to 2019-403, 926 North Calhoun Street. And if you folks had the opportunity to speak with the applicant in this case, Mr. and Mrs. Perez, would you all like the opportunity to speak?
Would you like to speak?
Great. If you all can head out the doors in the back of the room and just come back in whenever you're finished.
Ellerslie, Calhoun, okay, first two cases. Okay, very well. Well, I guess the next announcement is for those who have opposition. So when I call the case, your case number come up and the parties will be sworn. The applicant will stand over here to my left, the opposition to my right. The applicant will go, have his or her case heard. Opposition will then speak, and then the final word will be from the applicant. We will not go back and forth anymore. Okay, well, I'll speak to those folks who have the opposition later again. Going to call the cases for which the board has concluded we have sufficient information to grant your request. Those are on the consent docket. When I call your case number, please line up to my left, down this side, and all the parties will be sworn at one time, and then we'll hear your matter individually. Those consent matters are as follows. Case number 2019-420, 3400 Carlisle Avenue, Steve Bowers. Case number 2019-422, 801 Bridgeview Road, Elisa Hertzmark. Case number 2019-423, 6205 through 6219 Lincoln Avenue, Ms. Hertzmark. And finally, case number 2019-429, 621 Archer Street, Lamar Corporation.
You guys raise your right hands, please. Swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. I do.
Okay, calling case of 2019-420, 3400 Carlisle Avenue. Mr. Bowers?
Yes.
Okay. This is a request to install 280 feet of 6-foot high fence. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Do we have any staff reports?
Martin French for the Baltimore City Planning Department. Planning Department has no comment on this application. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Byers, is there anything you'd like to add to your application?
No.
All right. Well, the board, having heard your appeal, believe we have sufficient information to approve your appeal. Thank you, sir.
Appreciate your time.
Have a great day.
Have a great day and a good holiday.
You too, sir. Case number 2019-422, 801 Bridgeview Road. Ms. Hertzmark?
Yep.
Good afternoon. This is a request to subdivide into 2 parcels, retain structures, and continue use as schools. Is that correct?
Yes.
Do we have any staff reports?
Yes, Planning Department notes that this property is involved in a subdivision which requires approval by the Planning Commission. The department recommends that approval of this application be subject to the condition that all changes or improvements are completed in accordance with the subdivision plan and development plan approved by the Planning Commission. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. French. Ms. Hertzmark, if we are to be favorably disposed to your application, are those conditions acceptable to you?
Yes.
All right. Is there anything you'd like to add to your application?
Not at this time.
All right. Well, the board, having heard your appeal, believe we have sufficient information to approve your appeal.
Thank you.
Thank you. And while you're there, call case number 2019-423, 6205 through 6219 Lincoln Avenue. Ms. Hertzmark, this is a request to consolidate and subdivide 6205 Lincoln Avenue and 6219 Lincoln Avenue into 4 lots, retaining the existing structures, which are 6205 Lincoln Avenue as a single-family dwelling, 6207 Lincoln Avenue as an unimproved lot, 6209 through 6219 Lincoln Avenue as a place of worship, and 6210 Pimlico Road as a single-family dwelling. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. And do we have any staff reports for this matter?
Yes, as with the previous appeal, planning notes that the subdivision process requires approval by the Planning Commission. The department therefore recommends that approval of the application be subject to the condition that all improvements and changes are completed in accordance with the subdivision plan and development plans approved by the Planning Commission. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Hertzmark, having heard those conditions from planning, are those conditions acceptable to your client?
Yes.
Is there anything else you'd like to add to your application?
No.
All right. Well, again, the board, having heard your appeal, we believe we have sufficient information to approve your appeal. Thank you.
Thank you.
Finally, the case 2019-429, 621 Archer Street. It indicates Memar Corporation. Your name, sir?
Kirk Douglas.
Kirk Douglas? Yes. Okay, Mr. Douglas. This is a request to construct a 2-story rear addition. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. Do you have any staff reports, sir?
Planning Department has no comment on this application. Thank you.
Mr. Douglas, is there anything you'd like to add to your application?
No, sir.
All right. Well, the board, having heard your appeal, believe we have sufficient information to approve your appeal. Thank you,
Thank you.
sir. Have a great day. We'll now return to our regular docket. Just a moment. Yeah, I'll call that first.
Do we have to postpone York Road, or was that done already?
I'm sorry?
Do we have to postpone York Road, or is that done already? Because he's here.
No, we're going to, that's all. Because we can't.
Do we have to put it on the record that we were doing
I
it?
don't think so.
Oh, okay.
And they've already,
They already asked for it, okay.
I'm gonna wait for Avery. I'm gonna call the case, we're waiting on a return of one more board member. Case number 2019-417, 1310 Gulf Street, Michael Gallagher. Come up.
Yelling out there, it's crowding my hearing.
Yeah, I was gonna go.
What are they yelling about? That's serious, people.
Okay, sorry about that.
It's all right. I need to wait for Avery.
Can I get the interpreter's name?
Sherry Atkinson.
Okay, I'll go.
I'm gonna swear the interpreter in real quick, and then I'll swear the witnesses in.
Mm-hmm.
You raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to interpret this hearing to the best of your abilities from English to sign language and sign language back to English? And the rest of the witnesses can raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
This is a request to construct a second and third floor side and rear additions. Is that correct?
Yes,
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do we have any staff reports for this matter?
Planning Department has no comment on this application. Thank you.
Okay. If the applicant could tell us about the project, please.
the owner.
The owner is here, and he would like to maintain the residence there and expand it
To the
due
growing.
to the growing development of the neighborhood.
Okay. Mr. Baumgartner, is it accurate this is zoned in a, I'm sorry, tell us about the zoning application.
Sure. So this particular property is zoned as an industrial district.
Yes,
um,
sir.
But it is a residential property, correct?
yes,
Yes, sir.
In an industrial district, a dwelling unit of this type is what's called a non-conforming use.
yes,
Yes, sir.
There is a newer code provision that restricts this board's authority to expand a non-conforming use
yes,
by more than 25%.
okay,
Okay.
Our calculation from the plans provided show a 50% expansion.
okay,
The board would need to hear from the applicant how it could authorize this expansion under the code, or if the applicant would agree that any expansion would be limited to 25%.
what's that, what that,
Do you have something that you want to say about the percentage amount? Can we meet in the hall? No, they just informed us that the maximum is 25%. The owner feels that
The current
the
stairs.
current standards
The current,
and the current, the current
and
stairs and the current bathrooms are
because the stairs
not up to code.
That expansion.
So that expansion itself will be of the stairs that will help them to meet the code, and that's more than 25% itself. And he wants to upgrade the bedroom and add a bathroom,
That's all.
and that's all. That is his reason, because the stairs do not meet code currently.
And this lot is particularly small, correct?
Yes,
Yes, sir.
I would leave it to the board's discretion based upon the evidence and the plans that the board has.
Anybody have any questions? I think it's just demonstrated that it can't get less than 25%.
Less than 25%, right.
Okay. Is there anything you'd like to add to your application in support of it at this time?
no,
No.
Very well. Thank you. We'll take that in consideration.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Calling the case of 2019, I'm going to call it York Road because now they say 2019-165, 6309 York Road. I understand there's a request for a postponement?
Yeah.
That's all I'm calling it for. We have to formally get that on the docket.
Isn't he here from?
Mr. Williams?
I was like,
2019-165. At the top?
So this matter, there was a request for a postponement. It simply came in before the 48-hour rule. So the chairman's simply calling the case to hear the postponement request on the record.
Good afternoon. For the record, Justin Williams on behalf of the applicant in the case.
Becky Witt on behalf of Lake Walker Community Association.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, as Mr. Baumgartner mentioned, we would move for a postponement of the deliberation in this case, given that there's only 3 members who can vote.
Correct. Of course, under that rule, the decision has to be unanimous, and you all understand that, and you would like to defer to another time when we have more than 3 board members, correct?
Yes.
Any questions from the board?
Nope.
Any objections?
no.
Postponement's granted. Thank you. Okay, back to the docket. Case number 2019-185, 3536 Ellerslie Avenue. Sigid Kiffel. Oh, the cases?
Yeah.
Oh, these are, or did you just have 3 here? Did you not have?
Oh, no, I'm hiding all this.
I just wanted to read them twice, that's all.
I was like, my bad. Where are my cases? Okay, I'm good now.
Before it happens,
Okay,
I think it's Mel's turn first and then.
good
For
afternoon.
the
sir.
record, Melvin J. Kaninsky, represent the applicant. I'll defer to Councilwoman Mary Pat Clark. I think you want to.
I just want to explain.
I have to be sworn in.
Well, hold on. We gotta swear everybody in, then we'll hear what the situation is. Again, this is case number 2019-185, 3536 Ellerslie Avenue. The request is to use the first floor as a convenience store. Swear the parties, please.
Raise your right hands, please. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay. Well, before you get started, are we going to hear this case, or is there some other kind of
Yes.
accommodation? Okay. Let me ask for staff reports, if we have any.
Okay, first, basically, we have 2 letters from 2 residents. They write in regards to the proposed convenience store to be located at 3536 Ellerslie Avenue. I am in strong opposition to the building becoming a convenience store. We believe that by allowing this building to become a convenience store, you and the Municipal Board of Zoning Appeals will be allowing an environment that will encourage littering, loitering, and criminal activity into a neighborhood that I have lived in for the past 20 years as both a renter and a homeowner. I also believe that by allowing the convenience store, home values in the immediate vicinity will certainly decline. When the current owner of 3536 Ellerslie began renovations, they did so without receiving the proper permits. When the spokesperson, family friend, lawyer met with the residents at an open house this summer, they were proud of the renovations. They appeared to exhibit transparency by holding this open house. However, when questioned about the space usage, the residency of the new owner, and other concerns, they were duplicitous. The interior looked like it still needed a myriad of cosmetic renovations. The biggest standout to this space is the counter enclosed by bulletproof glass. This loudly sends the message that there is an expectation that this business will be a potential scene of gun violence. The building is close to Waverly Elementary School, the Y of Central Maryland, the Weinberg branch, senior living facilities, and the future Gilchrist Center location. These establishments and the law-abiding neighbors throughout Waverly and Ender Gardners do not deserve to be in such close proximity to a convenience store, especially where there are a number of nearby options for grocery and convenience store shopping. I attended both the open house and the forum organized by Mary Pat Clark held at the Waverly Elementary School. Neither gave me any assurances that this business would add value to the neighborhood. Instead, I am fearful that if this establishment is allowed, the neighboring area will deteriorate. My home is in that area, and as a longtime resident of Baltimore City at Ender Gardens, my love for my city and my neighborhood will diminish rapidly.
We also have multiple letters in opposition from when this case was originally scheduled in July. Subsequent to those letters, the board received a draft agreement between the property owner or tenant and the Waverly Improvement Association agreeing to certain terms, I'm assuming based on approval. We have that in the file, and the parties are certainly welcome to explain those conditions to the board. Mr. French?
Planning Department reviewed this application, noted that this property was previously authorized for use as a barber shop, and therefore the building itself does qualify for the neighborhood commercial establishment proposed by this particular applicant. The department reviewed other factors involved and has no objection to the application. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. French. Sir?
Do you want to say anything now, or?
I'm not in, yet, I'll wait.
my turn. And explain what's happening.
This
All right,
is
you may proceed, sir.
here on behalf of the applicant. As previously indicated, the applicant purchased this property about a year, 3-4 months ago for about $100,000. Put $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 into that. He is, excuse me, from Ethiopia. He lives upstairs. Wanted to make this a business. Would be a neighborhood commercial business. There was a bunch of opposition, quite a bit. We went to at least 3 meetings with the community. 2 were held at the location, and 1 was held at the school, at which time he made his presentation. There was the discussion of possible MOU, memorandum of understanding. Ms. Witt was cautioned to go ahead and try to hammer out an MOU, which the applicant did enter into it, and I think you have a copy. Does everybody have one? I got an extra one here.
Again, we have a draft agreement between Kiffel,
Yes.
Kiffel, Sigid, and Sampson to Weld, and Waverly Improvement Association.
Yeah.
And the copy that I have is signed by Mr. Sigid and Mr. Teweld, but not by the other
Well,
parties.
Yeah, and I have the one that's signed by the parties. And Ms. Witt. So they went through and they hammered out the concerns that you've heard about. I've got an extra 1 or 2. I don't have that many. And along with that, they were concerned about the hours of operation, which he agreed to, the prohibited goods, the sizes. They try to keep our younger element out. Lighting, which he's starting to take care of, putting to light the building up, security cameras, take care of trash and litter, and also to put up no loitering signs, and would agree that to be bound if the board be so fit to give them the conditions to these terms and conditions. So over that period of time since July, we've met as many times as we could to try to make this viable both for the community and also for the applicant who bought the property thinking that he could just go ahead and have a business there because it had a beauty shop or barber shop in there before. All that being said, I understand there are some other people that don't feel that way, but that was the purpose. We had the meeting at the school to get together and try to hammer out some of these situations and also enter into this agreement so that he could go forward.
Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to add at this point?
And the chief, now maybe in rebuttal, maybe Ms. Witt would want to.
Very well.
Sure. Becky Witt on behalf of the Waverly Improvement Association. I don't have a lot to add. The draft agreement that you have, the conditions are exactly the same. We just cleaned it up a little bit for the final version and made sure all the signatures and dates were there. If you'll notice, the restrictions are fairly restrictive compared to what he would be able to do automatically. The hours are restricted between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. There are whole categories of products that he has agreed not to sell based on the community's concerns about things like trash and the fact that there is a school within a block or 2 with elementary and middle school students. So there's a lot of concerns about children in the area, having access to foods that are unhealthy and that kind of thing. So, so that's the agreement that the Waverly Improvement Association has voted on. Their board has voted to adopt, and I think that's all I wanted to say. There are obviously a few people here who would like, I think, mostly to speak in opposition altogether to the application.
Okay.
And
State your name for the record and.
Mary Pat Clark, Baltimore City Council. Actually, I'm not here to speak in opposition. I was instrumental in having the group hire a wonderful attorney, which they did, and to negotiate and see if they could come up with something else or something more suitable to the neighborhood, because this is an issue of great concern. My error, I just presumed that the meetings would occur not only with the Waverly Improvement Association, which is where this store is located, but also across the street with those residents of Edna Gardens Lakeside who are right across the street from the location. And I was not included in the meetings or notified of them. I presume they were ongoing with all of the people who had signed in at the open house and at the school meeting. Such was not the case. And that's why we have here today people from Edna Gardens Lakeside, immediately across the street from this location, that were apparently not included in the meetings. After I learned of the decision and of the meetings and what the decision was in the MOU, I did circulate it to the list I had back on the 6th of December. But a number of the people here didn't get that, and they're here today because they're concerned. So I'm not here on either side. It's not fair because I agreed to this whole MOU. There was a lot of work that went into it. It is in Waverly. On the other hand, there is opposition that never had a chance, except for an open house and a general meeting, to be part of, well, they'll speak for themselves, but that's why they're here, and that's why it's last minute. They couldn't have known, I guess, about this, the MOU, and before the 6th of December or so.
Have they had an opportunity to review the MOU? I mean, there are a lot of restrictions in here that, I mean, it's very.
I will let them answer for themselves if that's okay with you.
Well, yeah, of course, but before we hear from them, it may make sense for them to read the MOU, because these restrictions, okay, are
We went outside to go over it.
serious restrictions on this individual's ability to operate a business. What I'm trying to say is that Waverly did a great job, the community association did a great job of hammering it out, an agreement to benefit the neighborhood. So do you guys don't feel like it benefits you? Okay.
Okay, we'll hear from you.
Okay.
Come on.
Thank you.
Thank you. Again, state your name and we'll hear from you.
Good afternoon. My name is Karen Harris, first-time home buyer. Just recently celebrated my year anniversary, having purchased my home in the Edna Gardens neighborhood. The agreement that was sent by Shane Bryan, president of the Edna Gardens Lakeside Civic Association, on December 6th, is signed only by the owners and is not dated. So I've since, having arrived here, learned that there is an updated MOU with this proper signatures. But with that said, a corner store would not be a good fit for that location. In the past, a convenience store represented a neighborhood gathering, a place where neighbors came into the store to pick up needed items. Now, a convenience store represents a place where people go to buy drugs in front of the store. It represents loitering, trash, and debris. I do not want 36 and Ellerslie to be associated with drugs, trash, and debris. Based on postings on nextdoor.com, this owner has issues with other businesses that he owns in Baltimore with the very concerns that I raised. What would be best suited for that location is a coffee shop / bakery. This area is poised to be a desirable destination for both the Waverly and Edna Gardens neighborhoods. However, if the elected council members are not forward-thinking, this area's growth will be stunted by our local elected leaders' inability to see this area's potential. What would be great if there was a supermarket located in the commercial development that is going up at 33rd and Edna Road. That is something that would serve not only the needs of the immediate neighborhoods, but anyone else who happens to be in the area.
Are there any other corner stores? Because, I mean, I know it says grocery store, but, I mean, this is a corner store. So are there any other corner stores in that Waverly area or in Edna Gardens that are creating a problem at this time, or would his be the only corner store in that area?
His will be the only corner store in that area, but having observed, again, I have outsider eyes. I'm new to Baltimore. So the corner stores that I've observed on Greenmount Ave, they all have the bulletproof glass. You know, it's just it attracts, especially at night. I've seen youth hanging out, just, I guess the term is loitering, in front of the store. So again, our immediate area does not have a corner store.
Okay.
But what our area could use, yes, we have a Giant that's located at 33rd and what's that, Old York Road. We could use a supermarket or a smaller version of a supermarket, like a Trader Joe's or something along the lines of that. What we need is something to bring up our values, not bring down our values, because our neighborhood literally is on that cusp.
So even with these, as the other board members pointed out, very restrictive. This is very restrictive.
Well, let me ask you, is it going to be like an open store? I mean, bulletproof glass immediately. Like if I'm looking to buy a house, and if I see there's a corner store, I'm going to look in the corner store and see what type of groceries do they sell. If I see a bulletproof glass, everything's behind a bulletproof glass, I'm going to say, you know what, I'm not buying in this neighborhood because it's dangerous. The fact that this person has to put up a bulletproof glass. Now, I am originally from Philly. I used to work at a corner store deli. Okay, so I know what a deli corner store environment is like. Back in those days, we didn't have a bulletproof glass. And in Philly, if you lived in a neighborhood that had a bulletproof glass, that was a really, really rough neighborhood.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Susan Brooks. I live in Edna Gardens. I've been there about 10 years. I live with my husband, who's been there 50 years and tells me stories about when we had baseball games, and it was a neighborhood that was a great neighborhood. It's a good neighborhood now. And we're the ones who would walk by this convenience store. We're the ones who were at, or at least I'm one of those, who was at the hearing where I thought there was discussion about maybe not being a convenience store. And as I read the MOU, granted, I'm not on the zoning committee, I haven't seen millions of these, but it looks to me like you're saying, well, they can't sell small bags of potato chips. That's kind of what it looks like to me. It's going to be open all day. It's going to give the same opportunities for loitering, for issues around the Y, which I go to exercise, around the school, around our kids, around those of us who walk by it, that when they were building in the neighborhood and putting stones out, well, the kids would come home from school and were throwing stones. And I see that as the kind of opportunity that you're creating with, again, I have a view of convenience stores. I did, before I moved here, work in inner city Columbus, which is in Baltimore, but I haven't just hung out in the suburbs.
Thank you.
And this seems like a downward opportunity for our neighborhood.
Thank you. Anyone else? You haven't been sworn in? Could you swear this party, please?
Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do. Yes, my name is Patricia Taylor, and I live about a half a block from the store. And I was one of the first people in my neighborhood that, that saw the introduction and him started building the store. And I was sort of disappointed because I asked him, I said, you know, you're building this store. I said, you need to contact the community. I gave him the information when we're having our meetings and things like that. I said, the community needs to be contacted. You need to get to know the people in the community. And his words were, when I finish, I'll contact the community. I was disappointed in that. And I also told him there's another corner store at, it's 33rd now. See, there's another convenience store on McEwen and Frisbee, which is within 2 blocks. And I said, we already have one convenience store. So that's my point. I was just disappointed in the process, because I think when he first started, he had time to go to the community and he didn't. And I gave him all the information to do that. I gave him the times of the meetings and everything, and he didn't show up until after everything was done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Sweeley wanted to testify briefly on behalf of the Waverly Improvement Association, so I told him he could do that now.
Good afternoon, Zoning Board. My name is Mr. Kunsan Sweeley. I'm the co-president for the Waverly Improvement Association. We did our best to try to do community outreach. Clearly, we failed, and we deeply apologize on behalf of the Waverly Improvement Association about this failure to communicate with everyone who would be affected. But we did our best to negotiate with the owners of this proposed convenience store, and we were able to agree upon this MOU that we hope would be agreeable. But I would like to personally apologize to everyone who's in opposition of this, that our communications were lacking, and we really apologize about this.
Thank you, sir.
Let me just finish. And I understand that their feelings. The gentleman here came to this country, he put his money in that property and went to operate a store, and he put it in July without understanding. And I'll say this, and I'm probably older than most all of you there. I probably am older than you. And I've been doing this 50 years, and I'm telling you, this was the first time that I've been to so many meetings with regard to the community. We had open house at 2 times at his location, and we had it at the school. He sat down and met. We met with, talked with Ms. Witt about hammering out an agreement that would be acceptable. So with the restrictions and the conditional use in the neighborhood business district, and I think these are pretty restrictive in a conditional use, much more than you would even have to talk about in a conditional use. All that being said, if he doesn't operate the place properly, well, then shame on him for having that investment in there. But I think he is entitled to go forward. Otherwise, why spend all this time since July to now to get in time with this agreement? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, calling the case of 2019-403, 926 North Calhoun Street. Angel Perez. You should step in front of the mic, please.
So I met with.
Hold on.
Oh, sorry.
You are?
I'm Michelle Perez,
Michelle
Angel
Perez.
Perez's daughter.
And this is a request to use the ground floor as a grocery store, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Go ahead.
So I met with 2 members of the community. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I want to swear you in, so raise your right hands, please. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Any
We have one more member, sorry.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Any staff reports?
Yes. First, we have a letter from the pastor of the Church of Deliverance Apostolic Faith. They write, we already have corner stores at the same located on Stricker Street and Riggs Avenue, Landvale and Calhoun Street, within 1 block of this location. Also located at Lafayette Street and Gilmore Street, and one located at Gilmore and Riggs. Once it seemed to be liquor stores were on every corner. Now we are obtaining these same type of high-price corner stores on every corner. And these stores are at a place that attract people to hang out all day and night. There was one located across the street from the church, but the city closed it and plans to demolish that whole block. It is still a place where people hang out, even though it's closed. What will this store offer our neighborhood? Will it offer more trash, or will it offer a place for loitering for adults and juveniles? Or will it offer fresh fruit and vegetables and groceries at a reasonable price for our area of low-income neighbors and seniors? These are the questions that need to be answered. I, the pastor of this church, don't think we need another corner grocery store offering the same things that aren't nutritious for our community. That's the end of my report.
Planning Department reviewed this application, noted that this property was authorized in the past for use as a grocery store and as a carry-out food shop. They are both now closed. However, The building does qualify for consideration as a neighborhood commercial establishment, which the proposed use would be. The department therefore has no objection to the application. Thank you.
Ms. French. Okay, Ms. Perez, go ahead.
Thank you. So I met briefly with 2 members of the community that are opposed to convenience store, and they asked, can I ask for postponement so I can meet with the community leaders that they don't know when they meet. They're gonna call me and let me know when they have meetings so I can present to them what is our plan with the corner store.
Okay, so are you requesting a postponement?
If possible, yes, because I've tried to contact the community, but I failed numerous times, and then this is my first time knowing that they have a concern. I also offered to have security cameras outside to bring down the crime, but they're still concerned. So yes, a postponement if possible, and I will give them notice of a meeting so I can present to them.
Okay.
No objection.
No objection. And you'll be placed on whatever, whenever the docket can accommodate you down the road.
Now, do I call you guys tomorrow to find out the new time and date?
That'd be
Perfect.
great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Postponement granted. On the case of 2019-405, 1152 through 1156 North Carrollton Avenue. Evtrall Fielder. Mr. Fielder? This is a request to use the premises as an art studio, first floor building of small furnishings and artwork, second floor dance studio for students, art museum, and listening room for musicians and students. Is that correct? Swear the witness, please.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
Do we have any staff reports?
Yes, Planning Department has reviewed this application, noted that this particular property has a 2-story commercial building on it, even though this property is zoned R8. The building does qualify for consideration of a neighborhood commercial establishment use. The board would need to make a determination in the opinion of the department as to what particular category this use would fall into. It could also be a cultural facility or a community center, and description from the applicant might help clear that up. The department has no objection to the application. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. French. Mr. Fielder, tell us about your project, sir.
I've been just like collecting the students in this area. I've made sure this area is clean of drugs. I mean, you could come to my area, and if you know where Carrollton Avenue is, the Pennsylvania Market sits across the street, and across the street is a haven of drug dealers. Where my place is, I let them know that on this corner I sell furniture. This is my drug of choice. Chairs, tables. Now, if you're going to do this, you can be with me. I've taken, gentlemen right here, I've taken so many people, brought them into the facility. Now it's like everybody wants to work. So now I've pulled in some children that I've been teaching. My sister teaches dance. Now I got like 10 girls is dancing. I said, look, we need to go ahead and make this a really good establishment. He said a community center, even that's something that just crossed my mind when you said that. That would be great. I have some investors that want to help me with the building. We want to put, this sounds crazy, I'm a commercial artist, so the building's going to be called the Elijah Cummings, but we're going to put a mural of him on the side, a big mural of Elijah Cummings on the side. I've done murals, if you look at the city, Lanville and Fulton first step forward, the big foot on the wall. I was the one who drew the mural and helped paint that mural. I can give you a lot of murals in the city that I've been a part of. So I think that this area needs a lot because we have a lot of people in this area that aren't working. In my block and down the street, I only have like 6 people in my area, okay? And they live so far down the street, they can demolish all the houses up to me because I'm the only one that takes care of those. I want to buy those lots. The older people enjoy coming up, just having something to do, to come in. I built my own bedroom set. I'm tickled. I'm tickled pink. They go out, they go tell their look, I built my own headboard. I kind of feel good with that because we don't have anything around there for them to do, nothing. You sit on the steps in the summertime and you're looking down the street at a bunch of vacant houses that I've asked the city to take them all down because they're haven for the drug addicts and the drug dealers. So I figured that the corner that I'm on is the only available corner, and across the street is the school that they use for the homeless. I bring the homeless over and feed them because they're still hungry. So I just said, look, come on, I'm gonna take my money and buy some food. Now I'm gonna be honest with you, and I'm gonna say this: my wife has a fit because she tells me I'm Robin Hood, I'm saving the neighborhood. I gotta help her. So that's the reason that I came to you for this project.
So your plan presently, and I'm looking at the schematic here, and
I teach music. I got everybody playing instruments that never played before.
okay. Do you have staff that you're planning on hiring?
I have 3 people, my sister, myself, and I have another young lady. She comes from Towson, right? And she teaches music like I do, and I teach art. And she has a degree in what she's doing. I've been playing music all my life. I'm playing the instrument you pull out. I'm an older guy. I might not look like it right now because I know I'm looking real good at this age. You know what I'm saying? But I got my birthday is Christmas, and I'm gonna celebrate the 65 years. You know what I'm saying? So I got to do something. You know.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, for the benefit of the board, both art studios as a neighborhood commercial establishment and community centers are conditional uses, so it's the same standard. Art studio is defined as an establishment which an art, a type of exercise, or an activity is taught, practiced, or studied, such as dance, martial arts, photography, music, painting, gymnastics, or yoga. Art studios include performance space related to the classes taught on site and recording studios. Community center is more broadly defined as a facility in which people who live in the neighborhood or community are able to meet and carry on cultural, social, or recreational activities. The board would determine whether or not the proposed use matches the community center definition or the art studio definition.
There was a guy that came before that with me. Remember, he was opposing. He came in with me when he realized that he could take his center and they could come to my place because it was bigger and have his graduations and things there. He was like, okay, we can do this here. You know what I mean? I told him what I had, and he was like, he could do that.
Okay. Well, it seems like what you presented is more geared towards the arts.
Yeah.
Visual arts, performing arts,
Yes.
things of that nature. I think more so than a community center, although there may be other uses you could have for the building. But as Mr. Baumgart has just advised us, that satisfies.
And
That's
interestingly
workable.
enough, it has a history as a place where light furniture was made.
That's me. I build all the furniture.
All right. Any other questions from the board?
Nope. No.
Anything you'd like to add, sir?
God's blessings.
All right.
Happy birthday.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your presentation.
Okay.
Good luck to you. Okay. All right, we already did that one. Calling the case 2019-419, 901 South Ann Street. Steve Fogelman.
Good
afternoon, sir.
afternoon. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays to you. Mr. Fogelman, this is a request to use or add live entertainment to existing restaurant bakery.
Yes, thank you. Patango Bakery and Cafe is an asset to the community. It's
One second.
Sorry, I
Let me
always do
just-
that.
I just want to confirm why we're here. That's accurate. Let's swear the parties, please.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do.
Yes.
All right, do we have any staff reports?
Yes, Planning Department has reviewed this application, noted because this is a waterfront property, or literally across Ann Street from the bulkhead. The site is a waterfront overlay area. It also is in the Fells Point Urban Renewal Plan area, the Fells Point Historic District, the Chesapeake Bay Critical Area, and the designated 100-year floodplain. For these reasons, the Planning Department is specifically recommending criteria related to approval of both exterior and interior changes or improvements that might be made as a consequence of approval of this application. The department recommends that approval of the application be subject to these conditions, in addition to any conditions which the board may establish. Exterior changes, including additions, demolitions, alterations, and signs, are completed or installed in accordance with an authorization to proceed issued by the Commission for Historical and Architectural Preservation. Interior changes are completed in accordance with plans approved by the Department of Planning. This refers very specifically to things like electrical and plumbing work that might need to be done. A copy of the use and occupancy permit for the premises must be kept on the premises and available for inspection by representatives of Baltimore City at all times. A copy of the written approval of the board of the live entertainment provided on the premises, including details of any restrictions or limitations on live entertainment provided, must be kept on the premises and available for inspection by representatives of Baltimore City at all times. And a copy of all other permits and licenses required pursuant to the written approval of the board must be kept on the premises and available for inspection by representatives of Baltimore City at all times. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. French. Mr. Vogelman, should we be favorably disposed towards your client's application? Are those conditions acceptable to your client?
They are. Thank you. I'm joined by Ryan Helfer, the manager at Patango. They want to do weddings and special events, things like that. I apologize. I took Mucinex and Sudafed before this hearing started, and it's all coming. It's all coming now.
Hang in there. Hang in there. We'll get you out of here soon.
What sort of entertainment is it going to be? I'm just wondering, because I know that there is residential right behind you.
It's non-amplified musical acts like acoustic guitars and things like that.
Nothing that's going to upset the neighbors.
No, in theory, no. Yeah.
Concerts.
No, I mean, we're booking like weddings and rehearsal dinners and things like that. So every once in a while they have like a light jazz band or something like that. But we're not doing DJs. We're not doing like full-blown musical acts with amplification. Most events should not go any later than like 11 o'clock. I mean, that's in stipulation to our liquor agreement that we have in the area too. So anytime we do a wedding, I mean, it's over 11:30. We'd like to do like weekly events with like acoustic guitars and jazz bands and bluegrass bands and things like that, but nothing too loud or crazy.
Do you have lighting outside? I think you do, don't you?
We have like some goosenecks that shine down on the building, and then the Fells Point Main Street Association has like some string lights that go along the lampposts, but there's no added electrical lighting. There's no modifications to the building that are going to take place. It's going to be as is.
So most of the time, this is going to be for a private event situation, not open to the public, is that
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I did see Mr. Martz, who's just stepped down as president of the Fells Point Residents Association, but he's staying on as the liquor committee chair. We talked about this hearing when I saw him on Friday at the liquor board Christmas party, and he indicated that it was good, always good. And he indicated that he would be approaching us about doing an MOU once we file the liquor application. And as you know, the liquor board also has to approve this.
Right.
Thanks.
Okay. Any further questions from the board?
Nope, none.
All right. Well, thank you for your presentation.
Thank
Good luck
you.
to
A
Thank
pleasure. Take care.
Okay, case number 2019-424, 5202 Bel Air Road. Bobby Turner. And we have here a request to use the property as first floor as a driving school. Yes, correct. Can we swear the witnesses, please?
Raise your right hands. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Yes.
And you-
Turner, what's the other?
John Gross.
John Gross.
GROSS.
Do we have any staff reports?
Yes, Planning Department reviewed this application, noted that this property is in the C1 zoning district, which does not allow educational facilities designated as commercial vocational. The definition of educational facility, commercial vocational, includes as part of its current definition, means a school conducted as a commercial enterprise such as a driving school, end of quote. Section 1-305X of the zoning code. On that basis, the Department of Planning recommends disapproval of the application if the board determines that the proposed use is a type of educational facility, commercial vocational, which is a prohibited use in the C1 zoning district where the property is located. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. French. Mr. Turner.
Yes, sir.
It appears that the use you're seeking to conduct, the business you're trying to conduct here, is expressly precluded by the code in that location.
Okay, is there any other recourse? The building was blight when we bought it.
Yes, sir.
With the purpose of opening a driving school. You know, the area is great for it. It's quiet. Transportation is wonderful, you know.
Yeah, and all those are admirable and lofty, except for the location. We've had several, actually, attempts of folks, they purchased properties for the purpose of operating a driving school, and for whatever reason, when the code was redone in 2017, it was made very clear what types of businesses would not be allowed in this particular district, C1, that's what this is. vocational schools, and more particularly, driving schools were identified as certainly the epitome of that kind of vocational school that would not be allowed in those districts. And so outside of finding a new location, it's not a bad thing, of course, to have a driving school, but there's really no authority the board would have to grant that relief in this particular district.
Because when I bought it in 2016 and I went down the zone, I was told that I would be able to. So, I went forward, invested a lot of money.
A lot of money.
Yeah, we purchased vehicles, insurance. We have a business name filed, everything. Been paying taxes on it. A lot of money invested.
Yeah,
A lot of
that's,
money. And I attach copies of everything for verification to.
Sure.
So one of the C1 zoning district is what expressly precludes driving schools. The Baltimore City Council is the only body that has the authority to rezone a property or properties. So you could certainly approach your council person for this district and see if they'd be interested in sponsoring a bill to rezone the property or properties in this area. That would be one avenue that you'd certainly have to possibly go down.
Okay, and you said the only person could do it is my city council?
Correct.
Okay.
That's correct. And that includes sponsoring a bill and getting the bill before the city council and multiple hearings and then a vote eventually.
Okay. Are you able to tell me exactly who that city council person is?
I don't know off the top of my head. This is
21206.
Road 5200 block. What's the closest cross street to that?
Is that Moravia?
Moravia.
Major.
Yeah,
It
Moravia.
is probably Danielle McCrae's district, I
Okay.
believe.
I sent her an email.
Yeah.
I never got a response.
So I would.
follow up.
Okay.
Yeah, and provide everything your business plan, everything you've done, and, the history of what it is you were seeking to do.
What the amount of your investment,
Yeah.
that you purchased it before there's
Yeah.
changed, all of that.
Okay. All right. Thank you for your time. I appreciate the direction.
Thank you for coming in, we
All
appreciate
right.
you, thank you. All right, finally, calling the case of 2019-425, 1758 Park Avenue, Alex Aaron. Mr. Aaron?
Good afternoon.
How you doing? This is a request to use first floor as offices, is that correct?
Correct.
All right, we swear the witness.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Do you have any staff reports?
Yes, basically we have 2 letters of support from the Bolton Hill Community Association and Councilman Eric Costello.
Planning Department has reviewed this application, noted that this property is located both in the Madison Park North Urban Renewal Plan area and the Bolton Hill Historic District. The latter is the more important factor in this situation, and that is any exterior alterations to the property would need to be approved by the Commission for Historical and Architectural Preservation, or CHAP. The department therefore recommends that approval of the application be subject to the condition that any exterior changes, including additions, demolitions, alterations, and signs, are completed or installed in accordance with an authorization to proceed issued by the Commission for Historical and Architectural Preservation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. French. Mr. Aaron, are those conditions acceptable to your client?
Yes, we've already met with CHAP actually for this property, and it's already zoned neighborhood commercial established for art gallery. We're just switching it to office.
Okay. Just tell us a little bit about your project.
Sure. So 1758 Park Avenue is on the corner of North Avenue and Park Avenue, literally opposite of Reservoir Hill in the lower part of Bolton Hill. We've already met with, as mentioned, the Bolton Hill Community Association. We've met with the zoning committee for Bolton Hill, and we've also met with the surrounding neighbors in the 1700 block of Park Avenue. This particular property, again, currently has been used as an art gallery on the first floor as a pop-up, and then I believe they use the upstairs as art studio. So our plan is just to convert the first floor from art gallery to office, neighborhood office.
What are you gonna do with the rest of it?
We have a bill that Councilman Costello put forth to turn the second and third floor from 1 dwelling unit to 2 dwelling units. So 1 dwelling unit on the second floor and another dwelling unit on the third floor.
Big building.
Yeah.
Looks nice. All All right, any questions on the board?
Nope.
All right, thank you for your presentation, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that concludes, it looks like, today's docket.
Yep.